This is Edge of the Web, a radio and video production of Site Strategics. Online at sitestrategics.com. This is a search engine marketing forum like no other in this world. You're welcome, planet Earth. And now, here's Aaron Sparks.
Okay, hey, we talk about the unique environment we're in at this stage of the online industry where brands can be created and honed. I mean, the environment allows for growth of brand far beyond what branding traditionally was in TV and radio, and that was it. And the edifices of the corporate environment. I mean, right now is an incredible place to be to actually grow your own brand. And in fact, that's a strong argument to actually venture out for yourself. Well, if your career shifts in one way, shape, or form, why not venture out into the space, be able to create a brand and create interaction and have, I mean, literally it's the online resume, but more importantly, it is the value that you represent now. So we're talking to someone who's done just that, and guess what? They're right here in the state of Indiana. So welcome back to The Edge. All right. Thanks for listening. I'm Aaron Sparks. You can check us out at sitestrategics.com. That's SITE, strategics.com. We're an Indianapolis-based digital marketing agency. We're focused on cost-effective web design as well. So if you're interested in anything that we have to offer, give us a call at 877-SEO for Weber, 877-736-4932. Actually, we not only provide you good rankings on search engines, but actually translates into sales. All right, so personal branding. What is it?
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, we are.
I heard like resume.
Ooh, a topic.
I heard all kinds of stuff. I didn't get it.
You didn't get it?
I didn't get it.
I'm trying to think of the last time I had a resume. Like, that I actually printed out a resume.
In the studio are a couple of individuals.
You think I need one right now?
After this show, maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to update
I've
it,
never
right.
fired a guest before.
Let me be your first one, because I know what to do.
Exactly, yeah.
If it happens,
Yeah.
if you want to walk me out of the building, I mean,
He recovers nicely. Right?
I will bounce back.
I just thought of that. That's something that you and I both have in common. We've both been escorted out of top media outlets. Mine was the Star.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How exciting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and do you drive past the empty space now in downtown Indianapolis? And just
smiled just
smile
a little bit. I know it's childish, but I do. I smiled. I really want to jump that fence. If I wasn't so fat, I would. I really want to jump the
You let them
fence
know that they're number one,
I
right?
want to chisel one brick. I just want to chisel off one brick and bring it back home.
Well, but you've persevered. See?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people look at firing as this negative thing that, if a company is getting ready to fire you, your chances of promotion and cross-functional, teams and everything else is pretty much gone anyways. So firing to me is a blessing. I think by the time a company fires you, you're already down a dead end. So time to go get something new.
Well, in the media business, Aaron, sometimes is populated by some variable management.
He means
Idiots? Well, I'm sorry.
Inbred dumb bastards.
Booyah!
Wow, this must be on the internet. You can say that. We
Can
can
we
never
say
say
that?
bastards on Channel 6.
No, this is going to be live on the air, too.
But you do deal with, and it's not just, maybe you do have a great manager,
Right.
but in TV land, that's in the time that I was at Channel 6, which was like a span of 15 years, I went through about 6 different managers at that time. So it's a business that often lends itself to transience.
I was going to, absolutely.
Yeah, I see the same thing. Like the Star were by far the best people that I ever worked with. The people that I worked with there were unbelievably dedicated.
He's trying to back himself up now.
No, but
You're trying to get like a free subscription now?
No.
I pay for mine.
But the problem, of course, was the overall direction and the leadership within the organization was so single-mindedly heading in one direction that there was no way to turn the ship.
Sure.
There was no way to turn the ship, and I think that's what traditional media has that problem overall.
And if you're, especially now, a lot of times companies are part of, because of consolidation that went on, especially in radio, over the last 20 or so years, there isn't a lot of local maneuvering that can be done.
Right.
And you might get somebody from out of town. This is the way we did it in Kansas City. This is
And
the
all
way
the
we did it.
value that you actually represented in that channel, in that groove that you created, isn't there anymore with the type. And on top of that, we're seeing that it's not just inside of media. I mean, there's a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of remote type of environments that are happening that you don't have those connections nearly as much as you used to, right?
You know, it's interesting. I think there are some media companies out there that they saw the internet and they went big and they invested heavy, and they're making a transition. But a lot of media companies didn't, and I guess that's not like any other industry, right? You have these, monolithic giants that get slower and slower, and unless they're eating the little agile guys to keep the innovation going, they're toast.
Well, with radio, it was kind of a perfect storm because you had a lot of technology changes about the same time that you had a lot of people that were suddenly overextended, with a huge debt service to deal with. Clear Channel, / iHeart, and some of the other cumulus, some of these big companies, and so they have to deal with these two issues all at the same time. And so they have, it's easier to cut the costs than to grow the revenue a lot of times.
Absolutely.
And so that's why, to come back around to your original starting point, it was just part of it was just the fear of, who is going to be next here? And if you put all of your eggs into that basket, that basket could spring a big old leak at any given moment.
So I'll let you introduce our guest here.
I'm Bob Gregory. You may remember me from being on TV.
Well, we've got Paul Poteet here on the edge, and we really appreciate him coming around. We reached out to Paul Poteet because he singularly has developed his personal brand where you don't see a heck of a lot of media who have media personality that have fallen to the wayside be able to get up from that particular scenario.
Yeah, it's very difficult because you get, it's just the nature of the beast. You get associated with, you get very comfortable with one place, and a lot of times there are contractual restrictions that you've agreed to that keep you off of doing anything else.
That's right.
There are places where you work in one city or a market, as we'll say in the business, and if you leave for whatever reason, you can't work for another. You can't even go to a different town and work for a certain period of time. Because that company, to use Clear Channel, whatever,
they've got their facilities there too.
Yeah, we're bad. We're nationwide. So
you're basically blackballed.
Yeah, I mean, you're trading on. That's the price that people will pay for the 401k and the vacation.
But here's the change. I mean, branding, and some call it self-branding or personal branding when talking about individuals. It's essential for career advancement, but the branding of social and utilizing social media has been embraced, and you have individuals that are outshining the actual company that they work for. And what you've seen over the last 3 to 4 years is the utilization of that, where companies are now attracted by individuals that have a sizable wake or a brand, a tribe that are following them, right? Mm-hmm. But what's happening now is that people that are inside of different media, inside different corporations, are now putting investment of their time and resources into their own personal brand that will come along with them, job after job after job. And in fact, companies are in a particular pickle because what you do with them is no longer behind closed doors. You have somebody who's got a voice out there. So there's an additional factor of weight, of clout, but also risk involved as you interact with and bring different personalities into your organization.
The one thing I'd argue with, though, is I believe that's the way companies are reacting, but great companies never reacted that way. No. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, even outside of the media. If you had a plus salesperson, right, and you stole that person from your competitor, right? You stole them from your competitor because of the accounts that they could bring, because of the relationships they nurtured and everything else. Right. That's why the person moved from one to the other. And so the company made an active decision. So so saying like, oh, I don't want you to be a star sales guy, is not in the nomenclature. So it's bizarre to me. I think companies can just kind of set some guidelines and say, look, we want you to be a star, but we want you to be promoting us. We want you to be collectively, like I was telling someone, I worked at ExactTarget for a few years. And at the time that I was at ExactTarget, they asked me not to mention, on the blog and stuff that I was part of ExactTarget. And I thought, what an awful, thing. Here I have a marketing tech following. What I think they should have done instead was say, look, Doug, if you're going to put yourself out there in the spotlight, just be sure to mention that, if I would have said it this way, hey, I'm an integration consultant, and because of the resources that ExactTarget has provided me all over the world and the experts that they've put and the intelligence that they've given me and the knowledge and everything else, I'm able to do a fantastic job for you. Well, now what did I just do? I put the spotlight on the company and myself, and I think if companies are strategic, they don't have to fear putting someone out in the spotlight. It's just that they have to set, some foundations. You need
social media policies, but when you're and we'll continue here. We're gonna wrap up real quick, but there are challenges whenever you have
I just totally talked instead of our guest.
Yeah, see,
that's funny.
It's okay. We'll mute your mic.
He has taken over my brand.
Wow.
Aaron.
I'm sorry.
Doug has rebranded me.
You can take the marketing tech segment. How's that?
I mean, we there are frustrations whenever you have to brand yourself, but I mean, literally, there's a new economy that's inside of the workforce, and that is the brand that you represent. And we're going to give you tips on how to improve that value for your own career coming up right after this. All righty, we're going to swing back around to Paul Poteet. Swing around to Paul Poteet, who's back in house. Wow, that was fun. All right. We wanted to continue the discussion regarding brand, and I just kind of flubbed your brand right there.
My name is it. That's all I have, Aaron.
PaulPoteet.com.
Dude, it's 3 syllables. Come on.
It has the same letter in the first. I always thought that was good, for radio and TV. Paul.
I'm going to have you change that for me.
Too late now.
So we have Paul Poteet.
You realize the irony of this discussion of the value of my name,
PaulPoteet.com.
You are not saying.
Well, I do recognize that. But you know what? Hey, you're on my show.
All right. Ready?
This isn't the Edge of the Paul Poteet show.
And we have with us Paul Poteet.
See, there you go. See? All right, so
thank you, Dave, Doug, wherever you are.
We've been talking about personal branding, and Paul's been doing that for a number of years, since 2009, of actually gearing in and raising his focus on weather, obviously, but on top of that, you're kind of becoming a local celebrity. Local
well,
and
I think you always
statewide.
were.
Yeah.
Well, I had the benefit
Yeah.
of doing other things before, all the years that I did weather. Actually, I didn't even, I started out because I wanted to be a DJ.
I know.
I was on the radio and still do that for some stations. So I had a background that wasn't just weather. When I was at Channel 6, I did feature reports for them, things at the zoo, live remotes on the morning show. So I had some shades beyond just the weather.
Sure.
So you've got to, as I'm sure you guys know, you have to know who you are before you can market who you are. You have to be comfortable with who you are.
Absolutely.
So I knew that there was a personality aspect to it that I had, that beyond just selling, okay, here's everything in the world you would want to know about the weather. I mean, I can't compete with that. I'm not the National Weather Service. I'm essentially a one-man weather wolf pack. I'm a one-man band, and so you have to go with, in my case, the personality, the weather base, and then the other things that go around that.
Yes, I mean, I follow you on every social media possible, and I do it for your keen wit.
Keen wit.
Wow.
There it is.
I do it for the family leisure ads.
You know that it won't be long until a spring sale is going on at Family Leisure.
I knew it was you.
I have about 20 cappuccinos. And well, that's an example of that's something that I was doing when I was at Channel 6, although, theoretically we weren't supposed to do commercials, but I did kind of voiceovers in the background all the time. We would, I would sit there and laugh because there would be commercials that would play in the studio during the commercial breaks. And okay, that's me. And then, nobody here even knows it.
Wow, really?
Nobody cares, but, nobody knows it. But then once I was officially away from being an employee, then I could take that up a notch and, actually with Family Leisure, for example, I mean, as you know from following me, if you say you follow me, we talk about the commercials.
She's literally in the car behind you a number of times.
Stalker.
I had somebody at Walmart just the other week who came up to me as I'm waiting for a prescription to be filled, no less.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Xanax.
It's a little RTV.
I thought you were going to go a whole other direction.
It's RTVP PSTD. Is that
Maybe he's seeing LaQuisha too.
It comes back around.
So I'm standing there, and a nice lady
Check,
comes
please.
over to me, and she says, "Oh, I just wanted to tell you, I follow you online." And I said to her, "And now you're doing it in real life." And we had a good laugh, and
Very good.
but it is fun. It wasn't long after. Well, no, it was while I was still at Channel 6. As a matter of fact, I can still remember because I was at the mall in downtown Indianapolis the first time somebody came up to me, and they didn't say, "Oh, ZPL," or Channel 6 or whatever. They said, "Oh, Facebook."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my."
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Fascinating.
That's when you know you really made it.
That's yeah, that's right. Now you're internet famous.
Exactly. Well, and that's the important thing is that what we wanted to talk about is the dimension of personal branding in this day and age is that there's a whole nother environment now of freelancers, and there's an entire generation that are not focused on the corporate trail, the corporate career path. There's an ecosystem that is very welcoming to individuals to be able to work in an individual type freelance environment, and it is stoking the individual brand. It's actually making money off the individual brand. If you actually look at the YouTubers, I mean, I got a 16-year-old boy, right? And the Markiplier is, if you know that name, he's got literally 16 million subscribers to his YouTube channel.
Wow.
Everything that goes through that guy's mouth, these kids are just freaking out about. And I mean, there's millions of visits to each and every one of the the videos.
All Poteet cast.
The podcast. The podcast.
Nice callback. Yeah.
There you go. It's just it's a momentum builder, and this guy's an individual, and he never worked in any space except for just testing video games. I mean, it's a fractionalized community. There's so many people, so many tribes that want to follow individuals, and if you can find that niche and build that brand, it doesn't take that much. You just have to know who you are and what you want to be known for.
Well, the amazing thing is the difference in the barrier, the entry point. When I was a kid, and I started in radio professionally, like back in 1979, and the entry point was, you got to find a place with a transmitter. I mean, you've got to get into a radio studio.
There were the geographic challenges right there.
Right.
Absolutely.
You couldn't just, sit in your room and record something, which I did on a reel-to-reel tape recorder, reading the newspaper out loud, but I was the only one who would hear it. There wasn't any way to share that. And so now you don't have that hurdle to jump.
No, you don't.
And at the same time, as you say, you don't have that mass audience. Now, when I started working on the radio when I was in high school, and it's like, okay, everybody that I go to school with, hears about it right away because there were fewer channels back then. And everybody... I get nostalgic sometimes, although I fight it, because
come on back, Paul. All right.
The business that I'm still involved in traditional broadcast radio, it used to be such a big deal among younger people, like you're talking about,
right.
Your kids, who, if they're like my kids who are into their 20s now, radio really didn't mean anything.
My kids are finding music off of iTunes and YouTube. Right, YouTube actually is a huge courier of music interest. The thing is that it's changed. It's changed from logistically finding the broadcast and the bullhorns. It's now changed to consumables. What's interesting? what is nuance. It's about the content, not the delivery anymore.
Right. It doesn't matter, it's not AM and FM anymore. It's like this program. It exists in different places. I exist in different places. I mean,
you're existing right now in different places?
I am in different places, even as we speak. I'm in
the dimensional
cities,
Paul Poteet.
In different places. So that's the biggest thing that you have to get out of your head, that you're, to do what I'm doing, you have. And it's very, very tempting. You just, give it all up and just do this one thing. And
that was me.
But you can't do that. And if you try to do that, an alarm goes off that sounds like an iPhone. So.
Exactly.
But here's the thing: is and I wax poetic. Like the smell of newsprint still gets me, right? But
you got to stop huffing it then.
Yeah, that's true too.
That explains some of what I read in the Star these days.
But I think the interesting thing was coming from that environment back then. Radio, this was serious, right? Serious journalism. The costs were really high. The costs of failure were astronomical. And so in as much as the costs of failure now for someone to go online and go record something and do something is cheap, nobody listens to it unless it's quality, right? Because
there's so much choice, but at the same time, how do you cut through all of those choices?
And so I still feel like the stars from those days, and this is why I think your brand stands, is you brought that quality with you. You brought that content with you, and that's why people pay attention.
Oh, I think that was part of the head start. And I knew that going into this, that I had sort of, the best of both worlds. I had all kinds of TV and radio exposure over the years, so I have a lot of equity. But at the same time, I have the flexibility now to, play around with Family Leisure or any number of other businesses, that I'm involved with, where I can explicitly do commercial work for them, and there's no song or dance involved. I'm there to help them market.
Fantastic.
And I'm not pretending that I'm above that.
Right.
All right. Well, we're going to be continuing our discussion with Paul Poteet, entrepreneur and personal brand vanguard. There's your title right there. Hey, welcome back. Hey, you've worked long and hard, sacrificing to build a solid reputation, right? When you're out of the room, what are they saying about you? Oh, he's an innovative marketer, or she's a terrific patent lawyer. He knows everything about Latvian export markets, right? But what if you want to rebrand yourself?
Maybe you want to be Latvian import markets as well?
Possibly. I don't think that's a challenging shift, but perhaps, I don't know.
If you're in Latvia.
It's tough to break into that market to begin with.
Yeah.
So taking control of your personal brand may mean the difference between an unfulfilling job and a rewarding career. So we're talking to a personal branding vanguard. That's Paul Poteet. We're going to go over key ideas of building your brand. So welcome back. Hey, I just want to tell you real quick, Edge of the Web is also staying at the forefront of Indianapolis digital marketing events that you can attend to tap the knowledge from today's industry leaders, right? So we've got Indy AMA helps bring these leaders together with their exclusive events. They'll actually host the Spring 2016 Marketing 360 event for collegiate members around Central Indiana on March 4th. Attendees will tour 4 different marketing-related businesses in downtown Indianapolis, and this special event will offer students insight into various aspects of marketing and enable them to see marketing from 4 different perspectives. So see more and register now at indyama.com and keep on the pulse of the future events as they happen. That's indyama.com. There's the gratuitous commercial there.
Good folks.
Yeah, they are very good folks, and we certainly appreciate our ability to sponsor them, and we want to give them some shout outs every once in a while. All right, so back to the edge. We're jumping back in and talking with Paul Poteet of paulpoteet.com
and weatherhistoryresearch.com.
And weather, yeah, exactly,
Nice.
exactly.
There's a whole non-media world too.
Now, he's a perfect example of developing your personal brand. In fact, let's pivot around. Let's talk about that particular commodity that you have there. You have a whole another area of weatherreport.com, right?
Weatherhistoryresearch.com.
There we go.
Or weatherclaims.com.
Don't go to weatherreport.com. That's not where we want
I
you
have
to
no
go.
idea what you get when you go to weatherreport.com.
That's Don Poteet, and he's not very friendly.
That's actually a guy.
That's the evil twin.
That's a guy named Vanguard. Actually.
He's got a squeaky voice. It's terrible.
He does commercials for a cheesy outdoor furniture company in Encino, California. Totally different from Family Leisure. So go to him. The weatherhistoryresearch.com. That's me buying the bonds as opposed to just buying growth stocks all the time for the 401k. I mean, it's a total play outside of media. It has nothing to do with whether or not I start to lose my voice in another 10 years from all the Marlboros that I've smoked during this podcast, for example. And if I, excuse me, if I, suddenly lose my mind and I'm not, wacky anymore, whatever, I wanted something that had nothing to do with being on anymore, or with performing, or
diversification, right?
Absolutely.
You can't multiply yourself.
Right.
But you can, by bringing up a new business and recurring revenue.
Which still had something to do with weather.
Exactly.
Your
and that was the
expertise.
important thing, is you found an opportunity to leverage your previous brand, your current
his
brand,
authority.
and your authority into a space that is actually very interesting. Tell us about that website.
My friend, the late Cliff Nicholson, who was also involved in television weather. We had gotten to know each other when we both worked at Channel 6, and Cliff had worked at Channel 8 and Channel 13, and he met with me. This was, I guess, a little bit after I'd left Channel 6, and he was in poor health, and he had built up this business of working with insurance adjusters and with attorneys all around the country to research weather. And we went to lunch, and he was telling me about it, and I said, Cliff, people pay you to do this? Because I could remember people calling up the weather office at the TV station. Oh, did it snow on such and such a date? And, you'd sit there in between breaks on Good Morning, or while Regis was on. If you weren't doing anything, here, I'll look it up for you. But there is so much money that is involved sometimes in whatever it might be, in attempted insurance fraud, or people who are actually taking a case to court, that it's worth it to have lightning, hail, high winds, whatever, verified. And so Cliff explained this to me, and he had told me at the time, I would love to keep this business going and this brand that he had started to build going. And there's nobody else that I know that involved in weather here in town that I think could do this. And so luckily, we came to an agreement before his health declined even more, and so I've been able to carry on his business. I guess that's been about 3 or 4 years ago, and it grows a little bit every year. And it's very interesting, and it totally has nothing to do with the stuff that most people know me from.
Well, no, there is a logical jump. And there is a brand.
Yeah, it has everything to do with weather, so it makes perfect sense. But no, if you hear me on a morning show in Indiana, I'm not going to be talking about the case that I did in Mitchell, South Dakota yesterday that had to do with high winds.
But there's an authority that transferred over to that. So, I mean, when we're talking about, there's going to be a number of listeners here that are interested in building their own brand and understanding how they can stand out from the rest. I mean, we talked about the gig economy on a couple shows back, and it was about the facts of the matter are that there's going to be a much larger environment of freelancers that are non-corporate employment that are looking to actually build their value individually, and some key ideas. Can you give us a couple key ideas or key exercises that you've done over the few years that you've been doing that?
You have to think. I think you have to think. Therefore, I am. You have
insightful.
You have to think, comma. I think. Dash like a marketer, a salesperson.
Yep.
You have to realize. I had a friend that I worked with on a series of projects we called Poteet's Gotta Eat when I very first left Channel 6, where we worked with different restaurants.
I loved it. Yeah, it was great.
Social media events / we also videotaped the event and then sold that to the restaurants. But he used to say, because he had been involved in marketing for years and years, we only eat what we kill.
Right.
And that's about the bottom line. I mean, you've got to sooner or later deal with the fact that if you don't perform, there is no safety net. It's so you have to first, I think, decide that you're going to be okay with that. That it's like anybody who's involved in sales, because you're essentially selling yourself at this point if you're totally freelance. So I think you have to remind yourself that there are going to be ups and downs. Sometimes when you don't want them to be there.
Right.
It's not
Usually going to be the case.
Yeah, it's not going to be a straight line. So you better believe in yourself, and you better understand who you are, so you don't panic. I think a lot of people don't know what it is that they're selling about them, so they're not. Or maybe there isn't one thing that they can pick out, but you have to have some kind of unique selling proposition. It really, you have to be a lot of it is mundane. You have to be organized, and you have to be, I hate to say a self-starter, but there's nobody else cracking the whip a lot of times in this gig economy as you're talking about.
And
if
you're
a freelancer, you're it.
And you can't expect it to, you can't expect it to happen. You can't expect it just because you throw something out there, just because you start talking in a particular space with some cliché phrases or what have you. You're not going to get the traffic. You have to. It gets back to our point. It has to be good, consumable content. It has to be.
It's got to be something of value, right?
Absolutely.
And so, and this is what I want to ask you. It took me a long time to figure out. Oh my God, I am of value enough that people would pay me. To do services outside of the employment factor.
I'd contend that argument,
you might. That's okay.
Does this mean I'm getting paid for this appearance?
Yeah. We have liquor at the door on your way out.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
But the
back to radio again.
Marlboro.
But I think a lot of our entire education system, our entire process is to bring people up as employees, right? I mean, that's the way we're built.
Yep.
But where we're heading is not that direction. It's the opposite direction. We're heading where everybody's kind of an entrepreneur. And whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, you've got to have a unique selling proposition and everything else. But what I was going to ask you was, there literally was a day where I sat on the couch and I said, why am I listening to other people? Why am I'm as intelligent as these people? Why am I selling my services to them and letting them make a profit on my services to run their company?
Cut out the middleman.
Yeah, and why don't I do this directly? And it was that day that I had faith in myself and made the leap.
And I would say, just as a final thought, that I would counsel patience too. I mean, there have been, it's like, sales relationships, they take some time. And I work with a radio group now that I talk to the owner and the general partner a year before anything happened. When I worked for a while, for several years with the Indy Star, that took 2 years of chit chats and meetings and back and forth. And so you have to have some patience too. So ideally, you start building that personal brand before you need to.
But
very good.
But you knew, right? You had that.
I had some inkling for some time.
You had the destination in mind, but you have to know what to expect and how much investment you have to make with time and materials. CIO had some quick 9 steps to build your personal brand. If I could skip through them real quick. Figure out how your content is relevant to your industry. Build out your social media profiles, a must. Create content and get it out there. Keep updating your content and the brand. Help other people understand why they need your services, right? You can't be a brand alone. You have to have unique content. You have to have value, just like Doug said. And make sure every interaction leaves them feeling like you've lived up to your brand statement. Very important. And the last one is keep your personal brand and your personal life separate. Please, Paul, separate.
I talk about Mrs. Poteet all the time online. I mean, what am I going to do?
It's just the kilts that you got to stop.
I'm sorry. I thought we were only being shot from the waist up. The videos on this.
All right. Hey, well, thank you so much. And boy, this conversation could go on for a long time here. Take these points away and use them, and we're going to have a number of links on the show at Edge of the Web Radio. Special thanks to Doug Carr from DK New Media and Marketing Tech Blog, and especially Paul Poteet and paulpoteet.com. All right?
Hey,
go check him out.
I want to say you are a Hoosier treasure. Thank you for stopping by.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate that. 53 years and counting in Indiana.
There you go. Hey, make sure to see all the videos and much more at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. Do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.